I'm taking a video. Yep. You know, and blah blah blah. Hi, Savior. Good girl. La 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 la.
Presentation.
Yeah, we don't want to put you through more work by any means. Let's make this one as smooth as possible for you.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me for round 2 of my presentation today. My presentation is dealing with teacher evaluation. With the changes in the federal government, the state of New Hampshire has actually instituted a 2-phase project to work on a new teacher evaluation system. And while they were starting phase 1, they encouraged a lot of schools in the state of New Hampshire to work on their own teacher evaluation project. And we're going to kind of go through all of that today. So, how can you tell you're in the presence of a master teacher? I think back to when I was a kid, my first teachers, obviously my parents were my first teachers. And then I started going to the movies, and of course my first teacher other than my parents was Yoda. So how would you evaluate this person and come up with a solution that you want this person to be the one that teaches your child? That's what you want to think about when we're coming up with this teacher evaluation model. New Hampshire has a 2-phase system that they've instituted. This is phase 1, the New Hampshire Task Force on Effective Teaching. It was established to develop a system to support teachers in the state of New Hampshire and support schools to help evaluate teachers. And it's comprised of multiple different people throughout the state, in colleges and the universities, people that are in the Department of Education, and administrators and teachers within the school districts. The purpose of this is to come up with a definition. The phase 1 is they're just coming up with all the ideas. Phase 2, which they're in the process of doing right now, is where they're coming up with their own evaluation model. So they're going to take all the results of phase 1 to help them in phase 2. So to start off, we had to come up with this common definition and identify the different frameworks that we think are important when it comes to teacher evaluation. Maybe I'll click in there. So we needed to develop the system. Of preparation, professional development, and continuous advancement towards teachers. And then at the end of phase 1, they came up with, and this has already been completed, they came up with recommendations that will help the new set of people in phase 2 actually develop the new teacher evaluation model. So phase 2 is underway. This has started, and they've actually completed the first part of stage 2. And it's actually to develop the model for teacher performance. In phase work, the first thing they did was they reviewed all the material from phase 1. They responded to the issues and the questions that all the people had, and examined models from other states, because this is something that it was kind of it was originally started based back when Race to the Top began, and this is something that some other states have already progressed through, and New Hampshire is working their way through and taking some information from other states, and they're going to come up with their framework for teacher evaluation. There's going to be a 3-year implementation period for piloting at other schools. Currently, this year in Merrimack, we actually piloted our own teacher evaluation system. The state of New Hampshire is going to take a 3-year implementation, and my guess is that, you know, at the end of each year, they'll take the data and reassess it and see how some recommendations for the next year. They're going to also come up with a guideline to help teach the evaluators on how to evaluate teachers in this system. We're going to take a look at that a little bit later. And then we need to select schools that are going to participate in this program. And of course, we need to inform the public and make the public aware of all the things that are going on. So, some frequently asked questions. What is the purpose of a teacher evaluation model? Why is Merrimack developing a new model? Have other schools in the states developed similar models? What happens if the union does not approve the new model? And how does our proposed model work? Anybody have any guesses as to any of the answers to these questions?
The purpose of a teacher evaluation model is to try to find out which teachers are effective and how effective they are. Why is Merrimack developing a new model? I don't know that because I don't know Merrimack. Have other schools in the state developed similar models? I think we have.
Have you guys developed one in Pittsfield?
Well, yeah, because we're using Charlotte Danielson's framework.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So the answers to my questions that I have up here is just what you had said. We're developing a system to support effective teaching. Not only, it's not a system to say you're doing this, this, and this wrong. It's a system to identify what you're doing and then give you suggestions to improve because we want every teacher to succeed. Merrimack, we are developing a new model so we can have input in it. Because basically, if we don't develop a model and then the state says this is the date, you have to have this teacher evaluation model set in stone, and we don't have our own, well then the state's going to say, well here's the one that we made, you can use this. And this is giving us a chance to have a little bit more of our input into it. And we can work through all the problems before it comes deadline for this new system to come into place. And yes, thank you for saying that. How many years have you guys been part of it?
About 3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
Oh, so you've already been doing this for 3 years. Okay.
Yes, we're still ironing out a lot of details and things that aren't going too smoothly. So.
This year we have a union vote in the beginning of the fall to approve or disapprove. Well, we just did the pilot. We haven't even got all the statistics back on it. So I have a feeling the union probably is not going to approve the new model yet. And right now nothing's going to happen. All we're going to do right now is probably continue to work on our model so when we have it all the kinks worked out, we'll have a good model that we'll want to use, and the teacher will want to use it, the administrators will want to use it, something that everybody will like and appreciate, and then hopefully things will go well. And we're going to take a look at how our model works in just a few minutes. So, the Teacher Performance and Evaluation Committee. It was set up a couple years ago, and it was to develop the consensus regarding all the protocols and the people that are going to be involved, and we're going to take a look at a couple different models and try to figure out what model we want to base ours off of. They had kind of a year of meetings where they just went through all these different things. What are people doing in other states and other schools in the state? And then the committee also was constituted of quite a few different stakeholders. We used an outside corporation, West Ed Professionals, that came and helped facilitate it, and we involved parents, teachers, administrators, and school board members. And then just this past year, in April, we actually ran a pilot of the program where teachers volunteered to participate and be evaluated based on these rubrics. Before that had happened, we had a bunch of administrators that had went through a bunch of training on how to evaluate. And so there's going to be a lot of feedback on both of these that we'll work through this year. So what they did is they reviewed 4 different teacher evaluation models. As the notes of those meetings aren't posted, when I spoke to the people, they actually said that they weren't allowed to give out all that information yet, but they were allowed to tell us that what they chose was Charlotte Danielson's 4 domains as a foundation to build upon. And her 4 domains are planning and preparation, the classroom environment, instruction, and professional responsibilities. And you can see there's a lot of overlap. So when you look at some of these evaluations in the classroom, there's some things that you're going to see that could, yes, they could fit into maybe 4 different categories. So you might say, oh, this is a planning and preparation. Well, it has something to do with professional responsibilities, and there's going to be a little overlap. So those are some things that they're going to go through in the evaluator training, and then we will learn a little bit about. So Merrimack, after they did this, they came up with their framework for teaching. And what we did is we actually came up with an extra domain. If you look back at the previous model, we have instruction, we have planning preparation, classroom environment, and professional responsibilities. And what we didn't have was the educational environment. And it's just basically pieces that they pulled out of some of these other ones that they wanted to have its own little piece. They wanted to, they found some different parts down in these other ones, and they wanted to pull it out and make it a separate domain. And that's something that the committee had worked on. So, if you look in your handout, there's a copy of this right in your handout right here. And we're going to do a little work with this so you can kind of get a feel for how this works in just a second. But before I do that, I'm going to show you basically what an example of our rubric would look like. And I did give you an example of the rubric on the next page. This would just be dealing with section 3A. So if you look at 3A right here, communicating with students, the rubric I give you is just dealing with communicating with students. So to be highly effective, they need to establish relevance, connecting instructional purpose of the lesson to the students' interests, experiences. If you look over here, provides clear directions, procedures, expectations, goals, and essential questions. So what you're going to be looking through, and what eventually we will do in the workshops, is they'll have you go through and highlight some of the big adjectives. What makes this highly effective, different from the effective, different from the basic, different from the does not meet standards. Provides clear directions, and this gives you kind of explicitly states and refers to directions, procedures, expectations. Over here, provides unclear or incomplete directions. So obviously that's going to be something that falls in over here. Connect student interests, may attempt to connect student interests. So there's some different series as you work up through the protocols here, or the different rubrics. So, if you look on the next page, well actually, I'm not going to have you look on the next page. I'm going to have you go to this section right here, flip back 2 pages, and I want you to kind of see if you can figure out what domain and what letter in the domain this would fall under. Mr. Platoukis was unable to locate the grades for an exam that his class had just taken. So I'll give you a couple seconds to think, see if you can figure out what that might possibly be.
Domain 4?
So domain 4.
Or domain 5.
Domain 5. So he basically, what he did is he lost his exams, or he can't find the grades to the exams. So yeah, I would say if we take a look at this, probably his professional responsibilities. You know, like you're professionally responsible after you do. I can see where he took the grades, and monitoring and assessing is definitely important. And so that does make sense to have a little bit of domain 4. That's where one of those overlaps is. But in the long run, if a teacher's losing all the grades, well, you're not doing your job. You know, that's something that you definitely should be held to. And there's going to be a little bit of overlap. And I think the more you go through this and the more you look at it, the more you're going to see how these fall into place. Now, have you guys gone through training in Pittsfield as far as, did you guys have something similar to these rubrics?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So like this right here, you have a big long page and you flip through.
Yeah.
Have you guys gone through training on how to use them and how to discuss back with the teachers?
The administrators have gone through the training.
Oh, but the teachers haven't.
No, our introduction to it, our experience with it comes when we have our evaluations at the end of the year. Then we become acclimated to how the process works.
So they'll give you a few things they noticed in the class, and then you go through the rubric and try to figure out how it fits in?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
we were given a thumbnail sketch of how the whole picture fits together and how the rubrics are used, but when it comes to actually implementing it, you don't really grasp it until you go through the process.
Yeah, it's quite a lot to take in than an old evaluation model, because the full rubric of this in our school, I think, was 25 pages,
Wow.
the full rubric. So and it's 25 pages front and back
For all the domains.
for all the domains. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to look through. Okay, here we'll try another one. I'd actually had that up there. So if you look at 5A, vigilantly monitors students throughout the building, takes on leadership roles, looks for ways to improve building operations, including completion of duties, paperwork, and assigned tasks. So completion of paperwork and assigned tasks is kind of where that would be something he was not doing. He lost his completion of paperwork and assigned tasks is not timely. In fact, this wasn't timely. He actually lost it. So, Mr. Moore had her class watch a clip about the double helix using a video guide containing questions that are factual, interpretive, analytical in nature. After the film, students work in pairs to respond to questions. So if you look at number 2 on the back, I have some add-on papers. And if you look at number 2, this falls into domain 3. And would you say that she is highly effective, basic, or does not meet standards? So she's using a video containing questions that are factual, interpretive, analytical in nature, and after the film, they work in pairs to respond to questions.
It would be hard to argue that, you could argue that it's effective, but we're not sure if she ensures genuine discussion among students and critical thinking.
Okay.
So, if the questions, interpretive and analytical, if the questions are critical thinking oriented, then it could fall under effective.
Okay.
And she does step aside when appropriate. So.
Yeah, so that's something that maybe you'd actually have to be in the class. This probably isn't enough without actually knowing what you see in the class.
Yeah.
And the big thing is, and I kind of gave it away because I gave you this right here, is that it would fall into 3C.
I was on the wrong.
And
wait, there is no. It got cut off, I think.
oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And we'll look at the last one right here.
Engaging the students.
Oh, here's 3C right here.
Yep.
Shows evidence of focused student-led learning, self-assessment through peer interaction, group collaboration, effective pacing, varied modes of instruction, effective use of technology, and serves as a facilitator. So, I'm sorry, I actually had that.
Yeah, so that could
3A
be,
is what I was showing you, and
Yeah.
it was supposed to be 3C, I'm sorry.
So that could be a highly effective then.
Yeah, so that might actually be probably between an effective and a highly effective, and some of that might be a little bit more observation that we'd have in class. Okay, and then we'll have one last one. And when students enter the classroom, they begin work on brief assignments that is written on the board while Ms. McCoy takes attendance. And so we'll look back at the teacher evaluation and try to figure out what domain that might be in.
To domain 2, I would say managing classroom procedures, 2C.
Yeah, 2C. Very
Ah.
good. Yeah, managing classroom procedures. That's something that you want to be able to do and be able to get the classroom started right away. And okay, so teacher evaluation. Where do we go from here? Right now, we've set up our model. It's been involved. There have been a lot of stakeholders involved in setting the process. We've gone through the pilot. It's allowed for a lot more discussion. Now we're going to come back and discuss it again as a union this year. As far as the administration, they're going to take all that data. They're going to sit down with the committee and they're going to kind of go through and find the things that worked well, the things that didn't work well, tweak it a little, and probably this year run a second pilot. And hopefully things will work very well. So once phase 2 is done in the state level, what's going to happen? Well, we don't know that for sure, but once the phase 2 is done in the state, that means they have a 3-year pilot. Then they're going to have schools participate in that 3-year pilot. They're going to get that information back, and then probably come up with some kind of directive. The committee, they're going to organize all the data, like I just had said, make any necessary revisions and bring it back to the teachers. And the teachers will review the information from the state and the committee. We'll either vote to accept or reject it. And then if we don't do that really quick, well, there's always that question. Will the state take that decision out of our hands and give a directive? I don't think that's really the way they want to go. I think they want the schools to be the leaders in this initiative. But if the schools don't do anything, they might take that decision out then. What's the benefits of a new teacher evaluation model? I talked to a couple people on the committee, and they said people want to know where their taxpayer dollars are going. They want to know that teachers are held accountable, that their kids are in school and they're getting good instruction, they're getting teachers that are paying attention to them and giving them feedback, and they just want teachers to be able to be held accountable. Well, this is a system that's going to say, hey, these are all the things that we're doing. So in a way, it should be a benefit in the eyes of teachers to have a new model like this, because it gives us kind of a little backing to stand on, assuming you're doing your job. And it shows the public how teachers are held accountable and teachers are held to high standards. So thank you for your participation in my presentation today, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, you did need someone who's knowledgeable about this sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know.